Hello, gather around. Welcome to my country farmhouse studio for a special edition of Halloween fun as I entertain you for a spell. I'm Marnay, your Stitch Witch. Did you expect all witches to be ugly? Okay, my friends, today we're going to cast a spell. And we are going to make a frog. This is Frodo the Todo. And I'm going to teach you how to cast a spell and turn fabric into a frog. Let's get started. So, to start this little spell, we need some paper because we have to design. So what I'm going to do with this paper is I'm going to fold it in half. Like this. So the tall part of your paper is folded. And I got this idea out of my book of spells. I'm going to teach you, and this takes practice. So if you don't get it right the first time, you try and you try again. You can do it. I believe in you. I will give you a little example of my first try when I tried this. So I made this little design, and when you open him up, you get a frog. But we're not going to do our design this time with the little fingers because I tried to make a toad and I didn't clip the curves, and look, he's given me the finger. So I'm going to turn him into a bug. So back to the drawing board. He doesn't make the cut. So I have another design here, but I'm going to show you how to do this because I don't have a PDF to put it out there. This is a spell that you're going to cast, and you are going to make your frog individual as you are. So let's get started. So I have my paper and it's folded, and I'm going to bring you down so you can see a little better. Okay, and let's move in where we can see. And I will use my other one here as an example. And on my example, you can see that he will fit this piece of paper. And I also drawed a shadow line outside of my stitch, or my line of my frog, so I could allow for a seam allowance. So when you have your paper, you are going to start over here close to the edge, and I'm just going to bring it down and around. We're only drawing half of the frog. Now I know that you all can make a curve. So when we get to this curve, and use a pencil in case you need to erase, because you might be doing a lot of that. And then we're going to bring this point here back out, and we're going to make little feet. And this one I will make little web feet, because frogs do have web feet. And I want to stay away from that edge enough to have the seam allowance, because the line I'm drawing is going to be my stitch line. So I'm going to bring his leg up, and then I'm going to curvature it out for kind of like an elbow. And around, and then back up to bring up to a belly area. And then we're going to kind of come across maybe an inch or two, inch and a half, somewhere around there. And now we're going to want to make a hip. So I'm going to bring my curve back down close to the edge, and I'm going to kind of make it wide and bring it back up to the start of his leg, and I will bring it up and I will curve it. And then we're going to bring it back down, and we're going to kind of make his little feet. And I like to tend to make these a little bit bigger and make the webbing or the toe areas quite wide. And then I'm going to bring it around and back up for the rump. And that's pretty simple to make a half of a frog. So hopefully you can see that. Maybe I should try to trace this out in marker. So now over here, we're going to do his eye placement. And I would go about a 1/2 inch down on your paper. You don't really need to measure. And I'm going to bring it in and make a triangle, like a pyramid. And this is gonna be a dart. But you're not gonna wanna cut that dart out right away. And I'm gonna trace in here just a little bit darker so you can kind of see how I drawed out my frog. And as I say, each frog is individual, just as individual as you are. He doesn't have to be perfect. Not all spells will work out the first time. I'm just gonna kind of go around him and make him darker. And really all of this is a little bit of curves and lines. And take your time and play. This is how patterns are born. And I think that you could really make your own fun pattern. So this is what we're doing. Just some curves. And when you open him up and you cut him out, you're going to get this. And you're going to want to make 2. So let's get to the fabric part, because that's what we need to make our frog. So over here in my spell book, I have, oh, what do you know, some green. Should this be the top or should it be the bottom? You decide whether you want your frog to be dark or light on top or on bottom. So the second fabric I have is this beautiful green grunge. And this is very nice. So what color would you make your frog? The green on, the dark green on top, the light green on the bottom, or the light green on top and the dark on the bottom? He could be like a chameleon. Another way to dress up your frog and make him individual and as your own, you can embellish him with buttons to make like little warts. Or you could make him a Frida frog and put flowers on him and use flowered fabrics. You decide. It's time to get cutting. Confetti! We have a template. Now, let's get to the fabric. Okay, I think I'm going to make his belly on the dark side. And I really love the contrast of this grunge for the top of my frog. What will you name your frog? I have a list of names. Floyd, Fred, Frank, Felix, Finn, Farley, Fritz, Festivus. Festivus for the rest of us. Okay, first thing I want to do is lay my half shape on my folded piece of fabric. Let me show you this. This is a big piece of fabric, and when I fold it in half, you should be able to fit your frog on this half, and your fold of your frog should be on the fold of your fabric. And if you have fabric that you don't have a big enough piece, you can sew two pieces of fabric together and make your frog a half and half. He could be like a chameleon. You could make him one color of green, half of him one color of green and the other half another. So as an example on Frodo here, I didn't have a big enough piece of this striped fabric on top, and I loved it. So what I did was take two pieces and I seamed them together, and I used the seam as my fold. And the same goes for his belly, and you can hardly see it. The fabric wasn't big enough, but I had two long pieces, and when I seamed them together, they were lengthy enough to cut out my frog. So he is seamed down the middle and on the top, on the bottom and the top. So it's up to you to really decide how you want your frog to look. Use your imagination and these seeds of creativity. Okay, back to the drawing board. We're going to place my frog on the fabric here. And I'm going to use a pattern weight to hold him in place. This makes a great pattern weight. And I like to use a piece of chalk. You can use a pen or whatever you would like to use. But I'm going to use this chalk, and I'm just going to kind of chalk him around the paper. This way, if I make a mistake, I can just start over and rub it off. Or you can use a pen. It's up to you. There is no rules. This is just having fun for a spell. So I'm just going to go around, and this chalk line is going to be my cutting line. That allows me for the 1/4 inch seam allowance that I need to keep my frog the right size that I want him. These frogs, you can make them however you want. My frog here, he's stuffed with rice. So he would make a great rice bag. You can throw it in the microwave and heat him up. And you can put him on your aching boo-boos. Not voodoo. You can put him on your aching boo-boos. If you have sore or you fell off your broom when you were driving, those are just some suggestions, since this is a witchy project. So you can see I've got him traced out on this piece of fabric. And now I'm going to take the bottom fabric and do the same thing. I'm going to draw the chalk line on here, and I'm going to cut these out, and then we will get to the dart for the eye. So let me chalk this out and cut them out, and we'll get to the next. Okay, I have my frogs all cut out. So I know that I want this one to be the top. So now this is where this little triangle comes into play. And I am going to clip that dart. And you can save this pattern for next time. You just want to remember that you don't want the dart on the bottom. You just want it on the top piece of fabric. So we have the dart cut out, and when you open it up, the darts will be evenly spaced. These darts are for the eye placement. So as you can see, I'm going to lay this on the top of my frog, And I'm going to clip that dart out on my fabric. And there we go. So now your top will have these two darts cut out. And we are going to put eyes in. So on Frodo here, you can see how his eyes and his face kind of come up. That's where the darts come in. And when we sew those darts, we're going to poke holes and we're going to put eyes into our toad. So I have a little mixture here of eyes for my frog. And these are safety eyes, and you can get these at any craft store. And I also have some different colored little lenses to put in here that will kind of make his eyes stand out and give them a little shimmer because they have a little clear edge around them. And I don't know if you can see that, but Frodo here, he has red lenses behind his eyes. And if you can kind of see in him in the light, you'll see that little bit of redness, and it kind of matches his belly. So makes him unique. So I have my eyes in only one lens because the other one's still in the bottle. Oh, my witchery. So we will have his eyes all ready. And now I think I will take you over to my trusty sewing machine, and we will stitch this little guy together. Okay, here we are at the sewing machine. Should I put my spectacles on? It might help me see better. Okay, let's get started. So, we're on. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, got the right side up. You're going to bring that triangle over right sides together so they line up perfectly straight. And then I'm going to start from the inside and a 1/4 inch. I got my shoes on. I don't usually sew with my boots on. I'm going to take a couple of stitches and then I'm going to back stitch to lock it because I don't want my rice to leak out of any of my seams. And you can lock it at the end even though we're gonna sew over it, but just to make sure it's secure. So there is my first dart. Now, as you can see, when I turn him, when it's right side out, you'll see that we have a little eye placement here. And that's where we're going to poke the eye to put the safety eye in. He's got to be able to see. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the other dart. I'm going to line up the edges so that they're perfectly straight. And this time I'm going to start from the outside and sew in. But I'm going to back stitch on both ends. 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch seam allowance. And get it all the way to the end. And I'm going to back stitch to secure. Okay, and now I'm going to kind of poke that dart out. And we now have, you can see he has like a little raised head and he will have an eye on either side. So that's the next step. Before we sew the bottom of the body together, I need to put those eyes in because if we don't have eyes, he's going to be blind as a bat. Okay. Okay, my friends, my frog here. So at the top of where that dart meets, I'm going to take a seam ripper that is very sharp. And I'm going to poke a hole in the top of that dart where his eye placement should be. So I'm gonna kind of go in from the inside, and I don't know if I can really show, well, no, maybe I'll go in from the outside. And I also have one of these purple things that might help poke things out, or, you know, go around the seams when I sew the body together. So this might be a handy tool, or some kind of a wooden stick would be helpful. So set that aside. Move my eyes over here so we don't poke his eye out, but we are gonna poke an eye socket out. So let me get that thread off from there because that's distracting. I'm going to go at the very top here where his eyes should go, not at the bottom, at the top. And I'm just gonna kind of make a hole. And this is very hard for me to show you since I've got the seam ripper poked through. So really what I just need to do is just kind of make it so I can get that safety eye, and it looks like a little screw, and it has a point on the end, so it should be able to poke through. Now let's see, which one did I poke? And this might take some practice. I would like to get in there and poke it toward the seam so I could just loosen a couple of those stitches, which I heard it, and maybe pop the eye in. Aha, and I did it. All right, so it's gonna, the eye is on the outside, and you can see where that comes through the fabric. And now we are going to put the safety little piece of plastic, and it looks like a little disc or a bowl with a hole in it. And the smooth side is gonna go to the outside. Oops, I can't get a hold of it. And I'm just gonna put that over that, and I'm going to slide it down, and it will securely, and I push it all the way down on that little screw thing until I can't push it no more. That will secure his little eye in place. And you can see he's got his first eyeball. Isn't that great? Okay, onward. Let's poke another hole. Without poking myself, the spell is not on me, it is on him as I create. Let's see. I can't really show you what I'm doing because this is very tedious to get that in there just right without tearing the fabric. I want to make a little hole. Let's see if I did it. His next eye is being difficult. Very difficult. It's like surgery. Okay. Let's see if that works. Aha! Success! It's on. Okay, thought I was gonna have to do some special surgery there. All right, now let's get the cap on. takes a little finagling. Okay. I hope one is not off crookeder than the other, but I think it'll be fine. He is unique, you know. Okay, so now, I know I have this fold line on here, but it really won't matter. I could press this, but what I want is right sides together. Right sides together. And I'm going to sew him all the way around out of 1/4 of an inch. And I want to leave a hole somewhere on the body that I can fill him with or stuff him. He's going to be stuffed and fluffed. So, I don't think I will bore you with the sewing. Just stitch him all the way around and leave a hole. And I like to leave a hole on the long side of his leg, so on the inside, because it hides my stitching. As I told most of you, I'm not a very good hand sewer, and I despise hand sewing. So I will probably just whip stitch that closed when I get ready to stuff him and get him stuffed, and then I'll whip stitch him closed. Okay, let's get on with it. Okay, I've got my frog all stitched around. I had to do a little improv on him because not all things come together perfectly. So when I was sewing, his head was kind of moving and this fabric underneath here seemed to want to shift. So what I did is I took a little bit of the excess fabric that was around the mouth and I made another dart. I did not do this on Frodo, so I think it just depends on what kind of fabric maybe you have. But like I said, this is for fun. This is a spell, you know, and it's all unique and different. So if you have to improv, improv. It's just a frog. You don't want to sweat it. It's just having fun with your own creativity. So I got him all stitched around and I left a hole here in his back inside leg. And before I flip him right side out, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to clip all of his curves. And I also want to clip up to the stitch, but don't cut your stitches. And I want to get into these little crotches of these little V shapes. Well, you probably can see it better on this side. These little V shapes. You want to make sure that you cut in between there, that cleavage. You want to cut that and around the tail end and all around the curve. So I'm going to go ahead and clip all of the curves and all these little crotches of these tight little corners. And then we will flip him right side out. Edges are all clipped. He's ready to be flipped. So let's get to it. Might take me a minute, but I'm gonna get my fingers up inside of the side of his leg and I'm going to get to the head part and I'm gonna push that out first. I just left a, probably a 2.5 to a 3-inch hole to flip him. And this might be a process of time. He's turning it from a tadpole into a frog. Okay. I'm a silly girl. But I like to have fun. All right, almost there. I might have to get out my poker here in a minute. He's about 3/4 of the way through. I don't want to push him too hard because I don't want to tear him. Put a lot of work into this spell, you know. Okay, he's coming. Shake it up, shake it off. All right. Now we're getting to the tricky part where you gotta get the legs and everything all formed out. So this is where I might need my poker. And I did check around my seams to make sure everything, there wasn't gonna be any holes or surprises, because I really don't want to turn him back inside, or yeah, right side, inside out or whatever. So he doesn't have any legs, but, and you can see I have the dart underneath his chin, so it falls right in the middle of where I put those other two darts on top, just to make that fabric come together a little bit more, so it didn't have any pinches or tucks. So I got this poker on the end of my seam ripper here that's a cover, and I like to use that to kind of, because it's big and it can help me push out his legs. And I gotta find his toes and all of that good stuff. So that's his hip there. So where is his feet? This could be a little bit of a process. Okay, I'm not going to subject you to torture. Let me flip him out and I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, my friends, we're back. My little frog is complete. I got him all turned out. I did have a little problem when I was poking. I poked one of his little toes and made a little hole in it. So I'm gonna have to stitch that closed. So you might come into some little snags here and there with your frog. So I decided to put a little stuffing in there because I have a bag of stuffing, and I stuffed his paw so that the rice will not come out, so I can stitch his toe closed when I stitch his back leg closed. So you can see underneath, I'll show you the little dart that I made under his chin here. Just a quick improvise because he did not want to come together. This one here, Frodo, he just came together perfect, but I think it all depends on what kind of fabric you're using. So anyway, I have a bag of rice, and this is just some instant rice, and it'll probably take 2 cups, maybe 2.5, maybe 3, just depends on your frog and how you want him stuffed. So I'm gonna bring you down and show you what we have here. I have a funnel. Any little funnel will do. This is just a little silicone. I have a spoon because I want to spoon my rice in. So we get that ready. And I have a little hole here that I have left on the inside of his leg. And that's where I'm going to stick my funnel. And this is a process. Sometimes I can spoon the rice in the hole directly itself, but to get started, and if you have a bigger funnel with a bigger hole, that works a little faster. But I'm just gonna kind of, I don't want to make a mess. Now I'm going to shake the rice down into his body. And as you can see, this will be a process to get him filled. So all the rice will go down in and it will get into his legs and all over. So I'm gonna finish stuffing my frog, and I will get back to you when I have him all filled up. I have my needle and thread here. I am just going to whip stitch this little hole here closed. I've got enough rice in him where I think he'll be fine. And you can see I want to tuck my seam allowance in. And if you need to, you can take your iron and kind of press that. Or I'm just going to finger press it. But I am just taking tiny little whip stitches to get him closed up. Hand sewing is not my forte, but I do want some tight little stitches on here to get him closed up because I do not want any of the rice to leak out. And just remember that you can stuff your frog with corn. As you see, a lot of people make corn bags and different things, so you can do whatever you want with him. You can put stuffing in him and make a great little stuffed toy for kids. Like I said, this would be great for a boy or a girl. But they're really just something fun to experiment with when you're bored and you don't have anything to sew. You know, hey, cast your own spell and make something fun. So you kind of get the general concept of what I'm doing here. I'm just going to close him shut, and I will put a couple stitches in this little hole where I accidentally poked it out. So when you're poking your frog right side out, you'll want to make sure that you don't poke through the stitches like I did. So it's just one of the little blunders that you get. So I'm going to finish this up, and then we will wrap this up. So here he is. What shall I name him? I think I shall call him Frankfurt for short for Frankenstein, because I kind of Frankenstein sewed his leg together. I am not a hand sewer, so anything that I sew is probably Frankenstein together. But there I am. I have my pair of frogs. These are so fun. You can make them for a boy or a girl. You can make them for friends. They make great rice bags. You can throw them in the microwave. You can heat them up, put them on boo-boos or soothers. Square rice bags or corn bags are boring, so cast your spell and make a frog out of some simple fabric left over that you may have laying around. Make them as pretty or as ugly as you would like. So I really hope that you enjoyed this little Halloween skit of the witchy Halloween episode. I had a lot of fun with this. Put a lot of thought into it too. So hope you come back next time and see what's brewing up here in my sewing studio. Hey, I wonder if you kiss a frog, would he really turn into a prince even though you're a witch? Let's find out. Chat at you later. Bye.